fifth grade. This history video is for April 22nd. Today we're going to continue learning more about the life of Abraham Lincoln. And as I was thinking about him, there was a word that kept coming to mind, and that word is humble. He began his life in very humble means, and he remained humble throughout his presidency. And a verse that I wanted to share with you is from James chapter 4, verse 10. It says, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you." So we know from God's word that he resists the proud and he gives grace to the humble. So how do we know that we're living in humility and we're ready to receive God's blessings? Humility is the ability to be without pride or arrogance, and it's one of the main character traits that should be seen in those of us who follow Jesus. Jesus is the best example of someone who humbly followed God's plan for his life. And Abraham Lincoln, as I said, was a very humble man, came from humble beginnings, and God did exalt him. And God wants us to not be prideful or boastful, but to be humble and to remember to always give him the honor and glory for everything that he does for us in our lives. So we're going to skip ahead in chapter 13 a little bit to page 217 and 218. So go ahead and turn there in your books. At the bottom of page 217, it says, "People worth knowing more about." So we're going to read a little bit more about Abraham Lincoln and find out some more about his life story. So we know that he was born on February 12th, 1809, and he had very little formal education. He didn't get to go to school very much. He certainly didn't go on a regular basis. He went a little here and a little there because he lived on a farm and he was always working on the farm. There was a lot to do, and so his schooling mainly took place in the winter time when there wasn't anything to do on the farm, but otherwise he was working very hard on his family's farm. But we know that he loved to read, and so he taught himself many of the things that he learned, and he would read whatever books he could get his hands on. He loved reading, and that helped him so much in his education. So follow along with me while I read pages 217 and 218. Abraham Lincoln, the man who saved the Union. Many people consider Abraham Lincoln to be the greatest president this country has ever had. He is truly one of the great men of all time. He is also a good example to show that America is a land of freedom and opportunity. Abraham Lincoln was born in Kentucky in 1809, but his family soon moved to Indiana. There, Abe grew to be a strong boy who helped his father farm. Because he was so busy farming, he had little chance to go to school. Abe didn't want to be ignorant, so he read what few books he could get his hands on. He especially enjoyed reading the Bible, Pilgrim's Progress, and a biography of George Washington. Abe grew very wise. Men would come from all around to swap stories with young Abe at the general store. When a war with the Indians started, the men chose Abraham Lincoln as their leader. He won their respect for his leadership in the war. Once as a young man, Lincoln traveled down the Mississippi River to New Orleans. He enjoyed himself there, but he saw something that deeply disturbed him. He saw men, women, and children being sold like animals at an auction. So that was his first experience really seeing slavery up close. This was the first time he had seen what slavery was, and from that time on, he wanted to do something for those poor people. So that experience made a huge impression on him, and that affected his attitudes towards slavery and how he would later work towards having that abolished in our country. Mr. Lincoln decided to move to Illinois to seek a better life. That is one of the great things about America. If you are not satisfied with the job you are doing, you are free to move anywhere you want and try your hand at any job you choose. That is what Lincoln did in Illinois. After several years of study, he became a lawyer. Soon he had built up a successful practice. People liked Abe because he was honest and kind-hearted. He was called Honest Abe. Lincoln was bothered by the trouble in the country. He saw hatred and conflict over the slavery issue. He knew that sooner or later America would have to reach a decision. Either America would accept slavery or America would reject it. He quoted a Bible verse to prove his point. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other. So Abraham Lincoln was saying that our country just could not continue with half of the states being slave states, half of the states being free states. It needed to be either all one thing or all the other. We could not continue on the way we had been going with there being such division in our country over the slavery issue. Lincoln hoped that by becoming president, he could keep the Union from falling apart. When the southern states withdrew from the Union, it hurt him deeply. He saw that war was the only way to bring the country back together again. Before he died, he did see his beloved country reunited. Because America is a free country, Lincoln was able to overcome his poverty and become president. Being the son of a poor farmer did not stop him. Not being able to go to college did not stop him. This was America. He was free to work toward his goals. Because he was from the common people, he understood and loved the common people. The American people were saddened when he died. They have loved and honored him ever since because he fought to save the Union. He has also helped many young people reach for high goals in their lives. Because of the example of Abraham Lincoln, many young people would like to someday become president of the United States of America. So that's the great thing about our country. You don't have to be from a certain social standing or have a certain economic status. That in America, we all have opportunities to better ourselves and to do things that we want to do. And so I have a special video that I'd like you to watch. It's a book called Abe Lincoln's Hat, and it'll tell you a fun way that Abraham Lincoln used to keep himself organized. Enjoy watching the video.